Hey gang, so I have an RV6A, and as part of the yearly condition inspection, I decided to do open heart surgery on my engine. And by open heart surgery, I mean that I intend to replace all of the arteries and veins on the engine. So the arteries and veins consist of hoses, obviously. So what I did was remove all of the old hoses, all 11 of them, for oil and fuel and sensors, fuel pressure, oil pressure sensors. And I sent all of those hoses to an outfit up in South Carolina, TS Flightlines, Tom Swearingen. He specializes in hoses and tubing plumbing for aircraft. He has a partner up in Wisconsin, Aircraft Specialities, and between the two of them, they furnish a lot of the hoses and systems, plumbing systems for experimental aircraft, as well as certificated airplanes. So when I took the old hoses off, some of them were probably as old as the engine overhaul itself, which was 20 years ago. Some of them were newer because I replaced a couple that I saw needed it, over the years. So this is one of the conventional hoses. It's in this particular case, it's a Air-Equip 303 rubber hose with fire sleeve. This is a typical rubber hose that you see on most airplanes, certificated and experimental. This particular hose, not sure the age, but it's really stiff. It doesn't have the old flexibility that was originally there. This happened to be a fuel line. Now, of course, it was covered with fire sleeve when it was on the engine. So, but anyway, it is stiff, and my guess is, based on previous experience, you take an old rubber hose like this that's been in service a long time and bend it, and then put it back in service, put some pressure on it, and you're going to see weeping coming out of this hose just like a soaker hose on your landscaping. I have seen it happen. I had a couple of twin Comanches that were way overdue for hoses, and I had done some maintenance on them, and when I turned the fuel pump back on, seriously, it looked like a soaker hose. But anyway, that's what that would look like if I bent it and then tried to put it back in service. So what did I replace these hoses with? Well, fell up in South Carolina, Tom Swearingen, TS Flightlines, specializes in what they call lifetime hoses. They're Teflon, okay, with integral fire sleeve. Instead of the external fire sleeve that you see on this hose, these have the fire sleeve molded into them, and because of their strength and resistance to fuel and oil, the hoses themselves, the OD and all, is much smaller. So this is an integral fire sleeve, has stainless steel fittings, okay, steel fittings, and even though they call them lifetime, obviously hoses on your engine can be subjected to damage and leakage and so forth. So even though the shelf life on the Teflon hoses is lifetime, when they're on your aircraft engine, you want to inspect them just like you would regular hoses. Make sure that they're in good shape. They haven't been resting on the exhaust pipe, haven't been nicked during maintenance work or whatever. So anyway, I had a total of 11 hoses done. As you can see, top quality, and it's amazing what $1,300 will buy you. So I'm in the process of getting ready to reinstall these hoses. After they're installed, obviously I will do the fuel pump and run the engine, make sure there's no leakage. So one thing I need to mention, these hoses, once they're fabricated, he tests them at 2,000 psi. Okay, in your engine, your fuel pressures will run, on a carbureted engine, your fuel pressures will run 5 to 10 psi. On a fuel injected engine, such as mine, they will run 25 to 30 psi, okay, for your fuel. Your oil pressures, whether it's a carbureted or a fuel injected engine, will run anywhere from 80 to 100 psi, maybe even a little over 100 psi in normal operation. So, like I say, he tests them at 2,000 psi, which is obviously way higher than they need to be, but that tests the fittings and the quality of the installation. Years ago, I used to make my own hoses. I had the mandrels to put the fittings on and so forth. And back then, it was always the conventional rubber hose. But I no longer have the equipment to do it. And quite frankly, I don't trust my skills anymore. So anyway, just wanted to do a kind of a show and tell. If you have any questions on the outfit that I sent the hoses to, recommend them. Most of the RV guys, when they're building their airplanes, will have Tom do the plumbing for the hard lines, the aluminum lines, and for the fuel pumps, fuel filters, and so forth, and also for the engine hoses. So if you have any questions, stop by my hangar, Bravo 9 at Clearwater Airpark. Take care.